Oh, Joel. Yeah. Oh, here you go. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're just going to wait a few minutes. I don't see Tony or Nikki online yet. So I guess we'll just kind of hang out and wait. There's Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Tony, Mom, am I muted?
But Tony was having a little bit of a technical problem, so he left. I think he's trying to get his things sorted out so when he comes back, it'll work right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Me too, but I was just telling, I was muted. I just came back to say what was going on.
Okay.
Audio is going to be weird wrong.
Nina, could you repost the link with Zoom on Facebook so that it's at the beginning? I can't figure out how to repost it to my own
Testing.
Okay, so I just have to have my audio.
This is automatically recording.
I turned on the recording because it asked me if I wanted to, because it left me as host when you went out.
Okay, great. I'm glad this worked out then.
So I started right away as soon as it asked me. Anyway, I'm going to hang back up.
Okay.
Hey, Nina, can you hear me? I was trying to repost the invitation to the Zoom, and I couldn't figure out how to like share it. I'm not very Facebook savvy. I couldn't figure out how to share it so it was fresh. Haley couldn't find it, and I don't know if anybody else was planning on attending. So she found it, but I don't know if maybe other people are looking for it. You're muted, Nina. I can't hear you.
I posted it on my wall and I posted it on Mom's wall, but
oh, I didn't see it. I didn't.
It's kind of late now.
I know, just people are looking for the link. That's all.
Okay.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Do you want me to send it to you so you can post it? I'm not sure.
Just post it fresh on Mom's page by itself without anything, just the link, so that people see it at the top of her feed if they look. That's all.
Well, so not everybody had Mom as a friend was the thing, right? Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Because I put it on my wall at least 3 times. I put it on Mom's wall, and I didn't know that you needed it on your wall.
Share it on mine, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. It's fine. Don't worry. Hello,
Okay.
Haley.
I'll post it to you. I'll post it to your wall. Oh, here we got Maria playing. Turn it up.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I've never done this before, so I'm not sure if this is too loud or what.
The sunlight surely hurts my
Mom used to dance to this song.
I'm a dreamer on a highway in the sky. Maria, I love you, girl. Oh, my Maria. Maria, I love you, girl. Maria, I love you. My Maria, there was some blue and sorrow time. Just my thoughts about you bring back my peace of mind. Gypsy lady, you're a miracle work for me. You set my soul free like a ship sailing on the sea. She is the sunlight when the skies are gray. She treats me so right, lady. Take me away. My Maria, oh, my Maria, Maria, I love you. My Maria, I love you, girl. Oh, my Maria, Maria, I love you, girl. Maria, I love you. My
So do you guys want to give people a few more minutes, or what do you want to do from here?
Away out west, they got
Yeah,
a
I
name
think we need a few
for
more
wind
minutes because it's
and
only just us so far, right? How many people are on?
the rain is tough,
There's
the fire's Joe, and they call the wind
I
Mariah.
think it would probably be okay. The only person that I think we might need to call, I'm going to give
The stars around and since the clouds
uh,
are flying, Mariah makes the
You have
mountains
Danny's phone number
sound
that
like folks
did
were
Eddie tell
already
anybody if he was going to
dying.
try and join?
Mariah,
uh
Eddie told me he was going to try. He warned us that he has a lot of trouble with technology. He said he was going to enlist his son's aid in joining the meeting.
But he told
I'm dubious about whether he can do that because he doesn't play well with technology. So he could call in, but I don't know how that would look on our end.
it would click. But anyway, I think I'm going to give him a call, but I think he would probably be okay to get started. It's already almost 10 after, right?
Okay.
so lost, not even God can find me. Mariah, oh Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Oh, out here they got a name for rain, for wind and fire.
Hello, this is Martha. I was just wondering if Danny gonna come over to my house, or are they gonna just log on themselves? Yeah, okay, she's just not here yet. All right, we're just checking because she wasn't here and the thing is starting. So, all right, thanks. Bye bye. Yes, I think that the other one says Ashley Danny, and the other one says Danny Ashley Morgan Riley. That's Danny's number. Weird. You still having a cook to the Zoom. You maybe disconnect it from the stereo. Okay. It's weird stuff. There's Dan. Hi, Dan.
Must have a code that you can live by.
Okay, Eddie is driving, and so there's no way he can make it right now. I told him that we can share the recording after.
Because the past is just a goodbye. Teach the children well. Their fathers have
You turn your volume all the way down.
slowly go by.
Then just leave the meeting.
Them on your dreams.
Getting some feedback from someone. I don't know where that's coming from, but
The one you know don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh.
Mama, mute your mic.
And know they love
Is it still happening?
of tender years. Can't know the fears that your elders grew by. And so please help them with your
I just want to thank Nina, Tony, and Martha for going through and getting this set up. I really appreciate them putting the time in for doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, honestly, like I'm so incredibly deeply honored to even be asked to do this in the first place. You know, like it really meant a lot.
You guys have to get out. I don't care if nobody participates. I'm going to participate in mourning my grandmother.
Right on top of it.
There's children. You.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is for everyone else, but the music is very, very quiet. I mean, it's nice for background. But I can just barely hear it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I was thinking to keep it low so that if people were talking, then people could be heard. But yeah, I guess we could just get started if everybody's ready.
I don't know where it is.
Dad, mute your mic. Or is that what you're saying? You don't press the mute button.
Here comes your ghost again, but that's not unusual. It's just that the moon is full, and you happen to call.
That's interesting. Don't know where it is either.
And here I sit, and I'm
Your app is completely different from mine.
hearing a voice I'd known a couple of light years ago.
Okay, so yeah, if we're ready, I want to thank everybody for being here, for coming today and trying to be a part of celebrating the life of Marie Zarankevich. Um, she's a very special person to all of us, and I'm sure in each of our own individual special ways. So it's really great to have spaces like this where we can take a moment to honor her life, to honor her memory, and to honor the love that we still have in our hearts for her, and share that with one another today. So if everybody could make sure that your microphones are muted. And then there will be time later on for us to all get a chance to like share some memories and speak about Marie in whatever way feels right for us today. I don't want to put any expectations on anybody, but if your memories and your feelings are showing up, I just want us all to feel like this is a safe space where we can all be here for each other, hold each other's hearts, and just create a safe space around that. And let us have the experience that we need to have for our healing in this moment. So let me see if I can figure out how to play this first memorial video here.
Now you're telling me you're not nostalgic. Then give me another word for it. You were so good with words and at keeping things vague.
Okay, there we go.
I think you should just go sit next to me. And I don't think you either.
So these are all pictures of mom, right? From when she was a child?
Yes, and there is a soundtrack, but it's not playing.
Yeah, that's why I started talking, because they were just going through, and it's okay. And like I said, we could it doesn't have to be anything in particular. I just love that these are all pictures of mom from when she was a child through growing up. A lot of these I haven't seen before.
After the meeting, I'll be posting all these photographs online.
No, they're wonderful.
And links to the videos as well.
I love that picture. That's one of my favorites.
Really good one too. I hadn't seen that one with her father. Is that Gabe when she was a baby, that last one?
No, it was one of Gabe's. I think it was Peyton, I believe.
Okay, couldn't tell. They look very similar. Natalie? Is it?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, wonderful collection. Thank you. Those are all pictures from the last trip up here, right? I'm really glad we got some of the Zoom captures and stuff.
Yeah, too bad we couldn't cast it. Because you can't hardly see it.
So everyone is aware, after the meeting, these videos and the photos will all be posted online. So if you're unable to see it, you will be able to see it after the fact.
Mute your phone. Mute your phone. What's that mean? We can all hear you.
The mute button should be in the bottom left-hand corner if you're in the main screen, for anyone that needs to know.
What a high note to leave on. I think, seeing that little phrase at the end of, celebrating an extraordinary life. Because all of the stories I remember her telling me, like, corroborates that exact statement. She really did live this extraordinary life. Like, I think to the point where, like, I think many of us in hearing her stories often asked ourselves, is this true? Is she making this up right now? Is this, I mean, I remember her telling a story of her and her sister running through the streets of where they used to live and putting their hands on people and giving them psychic readings and then running off laughing. She's like, and this is just the things that we did for fun as kids. And I'm like, this is, what a woman, like, that she's just always been this way, because that's how I knew her, as an adult. She was this very wise, very psychic, very in tune, very in touch woman, who's very close to spirit, and always had these wonderful words of wisdom. And then, she's also telling these other stories about meeting Stevie Nicks in a basement recording somewhere in Manhattan when she was younger. And I just remember her telling me, she's like, Tony, I know you've heard Stevie Nicks. We've all heard Stevie Nicks thousands of times, right? And she's like, but to hear her when she was 14 years old singing in one room in a basement, she's like, it was like literally listening to an angel sing. And she just had these, like, warm, beautiful observations, you know, and experiences with her life. And it was always so amazing to hear a granny story. You know, I think like so many people, you know, they hear their grandparents talking about the good old days or whatever, they all just kind of, oh God, you've got to tune out grandpa, you know, it's just, I don't want to listen to this. But like I found so many of her stories riveting, you know, and I think it's just that, you know, like she lived an extraordinary life, and she shared the experiences of that life with all of us in some way, you know, like whether it was through her stories or just through her wisdom that she used to help us navigate different parts of our lives. And I remember being younger, and I was at her house, and I was talking about how I thought that I had ADHD, and I was like struggling trying to focus and pay attention on things. And she was like, Tony, take a look at your life. What is interesting enough to be paying attention to? And I was like, she's got a point there. You know, there's not really a lot worth paying attention to in my life. But you know, that also was so very her, right? Like, I mean, she just had this cutting, curt truth about her. You know, she was unafraid to share her opinions and her observations with people. She did not hold back. And that was one of the things that I always admired about her. And it was one of the pieces that like I tried to take away from her for me, you know, like I want to be more like that. I want to be able to be more cutting and more honest and truthful in my life. And I think that's one of the big things that I had to say about Granny is she was a truth teller. And I think in this world that's so rare and so extraordinary all in itself, you know, like we encounter so many people who are tiptoeing around their feelings or their thoughts and afraid to share certain things with each other. But even though that truth she shared with us could be kind of cutting and hard sometimes, it was always valuable. And that's what I always took away from it. Like, wow, yeah, this hurts that she's saying this right now, but it needs to hurt. This is a necessary hurt. This is a teaching hurt, you know, kind of thing. And she was such a brilliant artist too, amazing artist. Like she just could out of nowhere, like, you know, I'm gonna make all of these face sculptures to hang all over my walls, you know. And she started making molds of Gabe's face, and you know, and just she made thousands of them, hundreds of them, you know, just had them all over the apartment. And she was just such a creative soul. And I think I was more involved in songwriting and poetry, like when I was first getting to know her. And we had so many long conversations about like what it means to write a poem. You know, like one of the things that she was really trying to impart on me is the importance of being able to tell a story with concise words, you know, like it wasn't about just following a meter or creating a rhyming scheme, you know, and all these other terms. It was about that we learned in school. It was about being able to convey an experience you're having with your life, with the world, you know, with your own heart, whatever it is, and being able to share that with other people in a way that makes them feel it. And she had that capacity, like just in her daily life, you know, like we never wondered what Granny was feeling, you know. She always made it very clear, you know, both good and bad, right? And but that's one of the things that we could always rely on and trust in her is, you know, we always knew where we stood with her. We always knew we were loved. We always knew we were cared for. You know, even in those hard conversations, we could still get a sense of that. And it's such a grave thing to have to lose such a brilliant person in all of our lives, you know. And it's definitely left a mark on me, and I'm sure all of us in some way, you know. Like there's this huge space in our lives now where there were her words, her wisdoms, her gifts, her creativity, all of that truth telling. um, but we still have each other here to be able to reminisce and share some of those stories and share some of that love still, and carry the pieces that we've taken away from her and her extraordinary life, you know. And every time we're living out these gifts that she's given us, these things that she's taught us, it gives us an opportunity to speak her back into life, to bring her back into this world and to be here with us in some way. And grief can be hard for a lot of people. And I think one of the things that makes grief so hard is the distance that we create between ourselves and our grief. You know, grief can be so uncomfortable and so cumbersome, and we just want to push it away, push it away. But it just makes it fight back harder, because grief ultimately is our friend. You know, grief just wants us to know that there was something here that isn't anymore, and that something mattered a lot to us. And it's important for us to be able to experience our grief and to feel it and to know her, to know grief in all of its 5 incarnations, to know it when it's showing up as denial, to know it when it's anger, to know it's when it's bargaining, to know it when it's depression, and then finally to know it once it's acceptance. Because then once we get to that stage of the grief, that's when the real healing happens. And that's when we get to find our gratitude for the fact that she had this wonderful life and she gave us such a wonderful life, right? She all gave us her gifts, her wisdoms. And then through that gratitude, we can find forgiveness, you know, because as we're experiencing loss, you know, sometimes there's a lot of those hard memories that come with that. And they're just as important teachers as are the good times, you know, but to find forgiveness for those moments and to see that there was love underneath that, I think is gracious, and it's important for all of us to experience. And another thing about grief is that grief is just love that has no place to go anymore. You know, so there was this love, there was this person where our love used to flow to, and it just doesn't exist. And part of that discomfort is that loneliness that our love experiences in light of not having a place to go to. But the medicine of grief is closeness and connection. So in the face of grief, when we're feeling that loss, when we're feeling that emptiness, it's so crucial to hold those who are still here with us even closer than we did before. Because maybe it's not the person that we wish we could share the love with, but it's the people who are still here with us to share that love with. And we can't deny ourselves that, you know, like, so your sisters, your cousins, your brothers, your parents, you know, whoever else, you know, that you have in your life to hold closer, take advantage of all of those moments. Because if there's nothing else that death teaches us, it's that presence is ephemeral. At some point in time, everybody's going to be gone. So let's take advantage of the time that we have now to be with them, to hold them, to tell them we love them as much as we possibly can, for all the times that we'll regret it afterwards when we can no longer say so. And another important thing about experiencing loss of somebody is the importance of carrying their memory forward, right? To, even though we lose their physical presence, we still have their memories, we still have our love for them. And I always tell people that I'm working with, you know, when we're doing grief counseling, that the greatest thing that we can do to honor those that we've lost is by living as joyfully as we can. You know, the people who have left us don't want us being miserable that we've lost them. They don't want us sitting around languishing and, oh, why did you have to go? Like, yes, it's important to experience your grief, but we don't need to stay there. We don't need to be stuck in that. We owe it to them to try to continue to live as fully and beautifully and lovingly as we can continue to do for the rest of our time here on this planet. So I want to take a little moment to kind of connect with your higher power, connect with your source presence, whatever that is for you. Whether it's God, whether it's spirit, whether it's nature, whether it's just the goodness of your own heart, whatever that is, just taking a moment and connecting with that. And then finding that place in your heart where you're experiencing that loss, where you're experiencing her absence, where you're experiencing that lack, that place where there's that hungry love that still wishes it could be fulfilled. And I want to ask you to invite in her laughter. I want you to invite into that place her smile, her joy, her dancing, her love of music, her love of storytelling, her love of her grandchildren, her love of her children, and whatever other beautiful memories you can invite into that space. And allow that to just fulfill that hunger that grief has created. I'm gonna switch over to this other memorial video.
I'm not actually seeing the video. I'm not sure if you have it playing. It's kind of off to one side. I'm seeing mostly a white screen.
Yeah, me too. And also, I know that some of us have prepared also to say a few words, so I guess we can do that after the video.
Tony, we can't see the video. It isn't playing.
Oh,
I don't
really?
think it's at. Yeah, it's over to the side. It's not like in the middle of the screen. It's like
I wonder what's. I must have done something weird. Oh, wait. Hold on a minute.
I'm not sure it even started
That's a
playing.
my bad. I did something. I don't know what I did here. Oh, wait. Let's try. Oh.
The second video is very similar to the first, but they are unique photographs.
Okay, can you guys see it okay now?
Yes, it looks like it's sharing correctly now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
And hey, Nikki or somebody, since the audio is not coming through, why don't we talk about the pictures a little bit while they're going? Like these are again pictures of mom when she's a child, right?
Yeah, we start out with the pictures that we have from her childhood. And by the way, these two videos comprise the almost the entirety of all the photographs we have of her at all. So this is everything, pretty much. Look at her, I'm happy. Her and her mother, Georgia, while she was still living. I wish I knew her dog's name.
I know, beautiful dog.
Her father. I guess these are her classmates. She's right in the middle. I think they went on a trip to Maine, and these are photographs of them going up to Maine. School photos, senior portrait, I guess. And that's Martha. That's Martha and me. Look how much Martha looks like Gabrielle.
It's surprising. I love that picture.
And Margaret. And her father. She used to visit him a lot when he lived in Trenton and later when he lived in Washington, D.C.
I love that you have pictures with her wearing her own jewelry and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's great because she made all that jewelry.
That's her with Natalie. I have a lot of her with my family because I took a lot of photos. All of them are gone except Dan and the kids.
Schedule.
Gabe, you're gonna have to scan some of the photos and add them to the thing for us to for that what is it? Whatever the photo thing that Nikki has them on. My brain won't tell me the name of it for a moment.
Shutterfly.
Shutterfly, that, yeah. Yep. So you have a lot of good ones.
Yeah, some of these are actually captured from a Zoom meeting that we were in, and I'm so glad they came out that well because we had uh
No.
oh yeah, we had
Technical difficulties.
up here. Goodness, I just like completely and so it was really nice, and we had they got to meet her, and we had the Zoom meeting with everybody else, and we had some screen captures. That was great.
So I don't know who wants to go first. I know that several of us have prepared something to say.
Go for it, Nikki. I said I would say something, but I didn't prepare anything. I'm just gonna rattle off for a couple of minutes. That's gonna be that. But if you have something prepared, go ahead and go for it, Nick.
Well, I have something prepared, but then I also 2 days ago felt inspired to write a poem. And so together, this is a lot of time. So why don't I share what I had to say, and then I will be happy to read the poem a little later, if you all don't mind, because you're all going to be crying when I read my poem.
Well, bring it now, then. Come on. You can't flex like that and not show up. Let's do it.
I will read it. But let me just start by saying,
because for the poem reading, so
I'm sorry.
I was saying, Tony, will you pause the music? It started up again. Pause it for the poem.
Okay. But we're not reading the poem now, just to be clear.
Oh, I thought we were going to.
Well, either I can say what I wrote, or I can say the poem, or I can do both.
Do both. I'll pause the music.
Do the poem
Okay,
later. Do the
I'll
poem later.
start talking.
More.
So to start with, I'll just say my few words. I lost count of the number of times I had to hop on a plane because the doctors were saying, this is it. And the mom made a miraculous recovery. It happened numerous times. I don't know how many times that happened, but it was numerous times from the time in New York, and it started in, I think, 2006 was
Yep.
the first time. Mom came back from the brink of death, and maybe even actual death, because they had to resuscitate her a few times. So many times that somehow this time her passing actually caught me by surprise. It seemed like mom would always find her way back. I shouldn't have been surprised though, because just a week before she passed, in our weekly Zoom call, mom said, with a hint of sadness, like you could see she was trembling and on the verge of tears, and she said, I miss my mom, I miss my parents, I'm ready to see them again. She knew.
That's they usually do.
Yeah, she knew. And I didn't pick up on it until later. And all in retrospect, I was like, that's why she was saying that. Mom didn't have dementia. She was confused sometimes, but she knew that her parents were gone.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that first night I was angry. I was not angry that she had gone, but I was angry that I wasn't able to help her more while she was among us. I was angry at how hard mom's life was. I was angry that it seemed like every time she struggled to pull her head above the water, she would get a small taste of what life is, what life should be. And then it seemed like she would get sucked back under again. Whatever small gain she made always seemed to be immediately offset by a loss. It seemed to me that first night she had a few good years in her 50s, but then she got sick. She was in her early 60s. She was 60 years old when she first developed congestive heart failure. She was so young. Mom's life was really hard, and I was angry. But then I thought about it, and I thought, mom was a relentless overcomer. She never gave up. She always made a comeback. And I think that the hardships that she endured throughout her life forged this incredibly resilient and strong person. Mom once confessed to me that one of her greatest regrets or some of her greatest regrets had to do with her failings as a parent. In that way, I think we're a lot like her. We probably all look at ourselves and judge ourselves harshly for how we parent our own children. I think that's normal. But mom and I used to talk every night. We were very close for a number of years before she got really sick. Mom never forgave herself for her own failings, real or imagined. But I forgave her for any time that she might have come up short, and she became my best friend. Like I said, we talked every night. Mom was the reason I worked so hard in school. Mom was the reason I developed such a love of music. Mom was the reason why I never valued popularity over intelligence. Never hide your light to make other people more comfortable, Mom used to say.
Yes.
My memories of mom's garden inspired me to start gardening myself. In fact, now that I think about it, mom was actually the reason I fought so hard for everything in life. Marie Zarankevich was ultimately the reason for every success I ever had. She's reflected today in the way I love my own children, and then in a reciprocal manner, the way I love my own children gives me insight into the way she loved us. I think that's the way of parenthood. When mom was 50, she went back to school. She got her degree in computer science. She learned internet coding and database management. She embraced technology and conquered it. It's easy, she said. If I can do it, so can you, she said. You don't need school. You can teach yourself, she said. So mom was the reason I started internet coding and started my own business. Mom made you want to go out and achieve things. She made you want to do good, to be good. She made you believe you could save the world. It was her mission. I want my mom's sacrifices, her impossibly hard life to have been worth it, to have meant something. I want to be worthy of her. So I was angry, but then I switched to sadness on her behalf for such a hard life, that she was so misunderstood and she was lonely and alone a good portion of her life. And that seemed so unfair to me. Her own parents failed her spectacularly, but yet she did everything in her power to take care of them. Even her father, who, arguably didn't deserve that, she did it anyway. And I was just sad. I was gutted. But just when she found a reason to live again, just when she was finding new energy to get out of bed and walk around and meet people, just when she found Lawrence, a partner to hold her hand and spend time with her, that got taken away too. But then I reflected on the unfairness of life in general, just mom's situation in the grand scheme of things was really not so bad. Mom had food, shelter, heating and air conditioning, transportation, the internet, a computer, a phone, healthcare provision in her old age. When you put it in perspective, you realize that mom was rich. And I suddenly saw that we, as her children, were privileged to build our lives on top of her sacrifices, essentially like standing on the shoulders of a giant. And then that became a gratitude for her strength, her wisdom, her boundless love, her resilience, and her persistent friendship over the years. So then I felt grateful for her intellect, grateful for the depth of her presence, grateful for her vast and empathic love that she had for us and for all living things, grateful for her beautiful connection to all things spiritual. My mom was my sounding board, my confidant, my staunch ally, and my best friend. I'm grateful that mom taught me to rise up from the ashes again and again. I'm grateful that she demonstrated how to be fearless, how to reach for and accomplish the impossible, how not to allow what others think to stop you. Grateful that before the end, she found companionship and joie de vivre again, and that she wasn't lonely anymore. It was such a gift. I'm so grateful for my mom. I have truly stood on the shoulders of giants. Everyone should be so lucky. Everyone should have such a blessing. I strive every day to be half the magnificent human being that she was. And it's too soon to let her go. I wish we could have had her longer, but I am grateful that we were privileged to have her as long as we did. That's it.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
that really was beautiful. Nikki, thank you so much for writing that.
I will share the poem, but I want to give someone else a chance to speak, so I'm going to mute.
Martha, do you want to go next? You
I see
muted.
your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Let's see.
I tried to hit the unmute button, but it didn't take. So my mom, I think she had that hard life. And Tony, I like the way you were saying she had an epic life, but I think more than the life being epic, It was her view of it, right? Because
Oh.
my mom didn't go to the grocery store. She had a side quest. You know what I mean? So it's just the way she told the stories of her life that made them seem so amazing. She was an amazing storyteller. She could
sure
have you
was.
dying. She could describe her trip to the grocery store and you'd be rolling on the floor dying. It must be an ordinary trip to the grocery store, you know what I mean? That was one of her great skills in life. What I valued the most of my mom was that she worked diligently not to pass on the perceived errors of society on us, the things she thought society was doing that were ridiculous. She didn't give us a whole lot to work with, but she didn't foist off the errors and bad ideas that she was handed. She kind of left us free to reinvent being us instead of telling us how we were going to be and make us take it or take it the way that I'm giving it to you and don't ask questions. It was, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is the best I can do. Figure it out. And she never pretended she had any clue, but she really had some deep insights into about how things are, how people are. And she definitely had a very psychic awareness of people's, like, I just remember one of the crew got pregnant and she slapped her right across the face because that person should have just not reproduced and not be in charge of anybody. And it was true.
Yes.
That was true. She was 100%. She was totally funny with that, right? But she made her seem like a crazy psycho, but yet she was. So sometimes you could think my mom is crazy, but then on the other hand, too many times when she thought she was nuts, it turned out she was 100% right.
Yeah, she was not wrong about that situation. I remember.
No, she was not, and that, nope. So, but that was my mom. So it was totally right out there on the edge. And the last bit of her life, one of the main takeaways I've gotten from that was that basically 9 years of being on death's door, I'm not going to be able to neglect myself to death. It won't work. I'm going to have to start taking care of myself. I'm almost 60. My mom was already a 60-year-old woman for 2 years by the time she was the age I am now. Just she used to say that all the time from the time she was about 58. I'm a 60-year-old woman, but I'm not 60 yet. I will be next year. But I just know I got to take care of myself so I don't end up almost dead for 10 years. I don't want to do that. So, and I have to thank Minnie. Minnie was her roommate a few months back. I don't remember exactly how far back it was, but it was a few months ago, maybe. I don't remember exactly. But she had this roommate who was really kind of cantankerous and unpleasant to the point where she had driven away her whole own family. And we were having Zoom meetings with my mom in the nursing home, this woman would just cry pitifully because she was so jealous that we met with my mom every week and that people cared about her. She was just so bitterly jealous that it just made her cry and cry. But on the plus side of that, though, she's so aggravated my mother just whining about everything, and my mom got up and left the room just to get away from her and finally re-engaged in life. She was like, well, that's what because she'd sit there for a while feeling sorry for herself. Nobody loves me, I'm stuck here in this nursing home. And then she saw what that really looks like and said, oh, that isn't actually me. That is not me. I'm not that person. And she's even when that woman who very quickly after that passed away, she still kept going to the dining hall and engaging in the world that she was in. Again, for the first time in many years, that she just laid in bed waiting to die. She stopped doing that. So the last little while of her life, she was actually doing her best to be alive, which was kind of beautiful. And she had a boyfriend. It was very cute.
Yes, it was absolutely wonderful.
So it was very cute. And I'm glad that the last meeting, we got to meet him. And I'm not surprised she passed because I could see that's one of the weird kind of things along the lines of what Granny has. When something's really unwell, I can tell when I'm looking at them. If a creature is really sick and needs to go see the vet, I can just tell. I just know when I see them. And I could also see that on Granny. The last 2 meetings, she was not okay. And I knew the last meeting, I was like, oh, I don't think she's going to last much longer. And she didn't. because
Mhm.
like all the times before that, I never thought that. But that day I was like, oh, I don't think she's going to last. She looked, to me, she looked like she was grayed out of the background. So I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but she just didn't look the right color, and she was definitely lethargic and not like the feist wasn't there the way that it usually is. So I wasn't surprised. And I'm not good at grieving. So it's weird. It's been weird. Sometimes the song will come on and the tears start coming out of my eyes, and I'm not actually crying, but my eyes are crying. It's running down my face. And I, yesterday I walked in to talk to Josie about, they made themselves some dinner and they did something creative, and I was kind of excited about it. So I was telling them about how I was excited about them cooking like that, but the tears were running down my face. And Josie's like, "Mom, are you all right? Do you need a hug?" So I don't
The
know.
answer is yes. Yes, you needed a
Yes,
hug.
yes, I did. I got a couple of hugs, and
Good.
more tears poured out of my eyes, and it was because of music, though. This is what does it for me when I hear songs that she would have loved, songs I know she would have beat out a rhythm on her steering wheel.
Yeah.
Rainy Star. Yeah. Then I start to cry. I sing along with them and start to cry all at the same time. So I'm definitely going through my own process. I don't know. I'm not a particularly sappy person, so I'm like, what is this going on with me? I don't understand.
This is what the humans call emotions, Martha.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I have them. I just don't. I'm not familiar. I mean, everybody has emotions, but I'm just not familiar with that much. I'm not real. I'm more like Spock than Data, half human, right? But just like Spock, when emotions overcome me, I'm like, what is this? What is
Granny
this?
felt the same way about big emotions.
She did.
Yeah. My daughter for sure. It's
I
that
think
tism. It's the tism. Yeah. But I'm grateful that I'm alive, and it couldn't happen without her. No matter what else is true about my upbringing. She did her very best. And definitely, like Nikki was saying, and is kind of inspired us to just keep on going no matter what happens. And don't give up and don't lay down and take it. Just go. Do the next thing. And we all agreed, and we told her too, that we're taking on the mission, and we're going to continue to try to figure out how to make this world good for everybody, good for us and good for everybody else too. Just do it. Just do it. Keep working at it.
Mhm.
Ticking away at figuring out a way for us to all not survive, thrive. We can thrive. So that's the mission. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I loved her, and she was definitely a character.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. She
Glad
had
to
some
remember.
funny stories to tell. I had a couple that I was thinking of reiterating, but they're not in my head anywhere to be found, so we're not going to be doing that.
Well, if they come back to you later, bring them back
I
up.
can always redo them. Yep. Yeah, but she definitely had a way of couching. Like, I mean, she lived in her van for a while, and when she talked about it with me, it never occurred to me, because the way she described it, it sounded like some epic adventure, that she was homeless. My mom
Because
was a
she was
bad
van life.
Now it's called van life.
Van life, right.
And she lived it that way. She embraced it. She was so proud of all of the ways that she made it work, her cool showering system and her little nooks and crannies.
Yep.
Someday I will live in an RV in Granny's honor. Because that was her retirement dream, was to have her own RV and just travel amongst her family and find more Eddies along the way.
Oh my gosh, I wish Eddie could have been here. Do you know Eddie? She kidnapped him. I kid you not. She picked him up hitchhiking, and they got chatting, and he played the harmonica a little bit, and she said, "That's it, I'm taking you home." and she did. She took him home to the mountain, and where she brought him into the nest of Hell's Angels, and he spent 3 weeks getting hazed by them. So he's our brother from another mother, but I'm not sure. I mean, he's definitely part of the family, but he might have Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. But you know, the important thing about that though is that even though that, even though that's the way it really went down, he was in a dark place in himself, and he wasn't sure he was going to keep on trying. He was saying that he was close to calling it quits when that happened, and that went away with that connection to her and that crazy.
She said, "Oh, look at this beautiful soul who just needs to be connected to the world. I'll bring him home. Here's your connection."
Here's your connection, right.
Yeah, Eddie said to him, it felt like he was continuing when he started talking to Mom. It felt like he was continuing a conversation, not that he was just meeting somebody, but continuing something that had been going on for a long time. It just felt like he had known her forever.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, that story, the story of Eddie, is like something you see in a movie, that a woman picks up a guy hitchhiking with a guitar slung over his shoulder, and he becomes family. How does that even happen? My mom's whole life was like that. Or what other human being can live in a van and spin it in such a way to others and to herself that it's an adventure, and not feel sorry for herself or woe is me? No, like Martha said, we weren't thinking of it as homelessness. She didn't.
No, she had won her autonomy.
Yeah. And I can relate to that. I lived in a tent with my ex-partner for like literally 3 months, and it was actually like one of the better times of my life that I can look back on, and it was exactly like Gabe just said. There was this autonomy to it, like it was like true freedom in a sense. And it was in fact an adventure, of like figuring out like, well, how do you do this without a home necessarily? And not unlike Granny, during that time period, I didn't count myself as homeless. It wasn't until my therapist at the time actually called it out. She was like, well, you're essentially homeless and you're about the happiest client that I see all week. She's like, I don't think that's a mistake.
Darius has to go to work. Say goodbye to everybody.
Bye. Thank you for your beautiful words, everybody. I gotta go to work now, unfortunately. It's kind of frustrating, but
Bye, Darius.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day at work.
Thank you.
Darius is
So
Darius.
who wants to speak next? Anybody?
I can go next. All right, Margaret, you want to go next? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things I wanted to say. I didn't really prepare anything. I did want to mention, and I think it's really wonderful. We actually had Martha. So Mom was out here. She lived with me, like toward the end of her life. She lived with me for a few years, and then we had to move her over into a nursing home. But she was in town here in Boise, and so I'm in Boise, Idaho. Nina's in San Diego, and Martha's up in New York in Ithaca. And so just this last April, we were able to get everybody out, or a good group. Not everybody was able to, but Martha and Nikki and Natalie and Darius were all able to come out, and we got to spend some really good time with Mom as a family, and that's where some of those pictures came from. And then this past July, like I mentioned, we had Landon and Ariana come out and visit because they're similar age to my son Zach, and so we got to spend some time, and she got to meet those other great grandchildren for Gabe's kids. So I'm really, really glad we got to spend some of that special time together, both with her immediate daughters and then with some of her extended family that she hadn't had a chance to meet. So that's really wonderful. My experience with Mom is kind of weird because I knew her when I was young, and then I had a really large stretch from when I was a teenager through an adult where I didn't really know her very well. I moved I moved, well, like she moved away and I stayed with my dad. And then I moved away and I didn't get to see her. And I'm not a talkative person, so I really didn't get to know her again until she was very sick. And then we had her move in with me because I had extra space. Um, it's crazy. I have this huge gap. So it's really wonderful to hear you guys talking about her because you knew her much better during that window than I did. Because I remember her as a child. And I was going to say just a couple of things about that because I remember sitting in the kitchen in the house in Mountain Lodge in a chair. She had me sitting in a chair and she was trying to teach me how to astral project.
Yes. Yes.
My mom, for sure.
That's my girl.
But that's something that I distinctly remember. Her love of like herbs, and she was very interested in like Native American medicines and such, and golden seal. I remember golden seal. She thought it was a cure for absolutely everything under the sun. Um, and
To
still,
this day, I will never forget the first time she made me swallow the golden seal and I puked it on
Oh,
the
it's
table
awful.
immediately.
It's awful.
oh goodness.
I think that's one of the reasons we were so healthy, because the thought of having to drink that golden seal made your immune system kick into gear to avoid it. It's like, I'm fine.
But my mother is so opposite to me. I am a very kind of logical and not very emotional person, and I need to see data to do anything. And I'm very cautious. And my mother was the complete opposite. She was intuitive and spiritual, and even when there was evidence right in front of her that contradicted what she felt, she went with her feeling. I'm saying that jokingly, but I mean, it's just such a wonderful, um, it's a, it, it's just a wonderful perspective, and it was amazing, especially for me, because like I said, I am so opposite to that. It was amazing for me to see and get to experience. Um, it's wild sometimes, but amazing. Um, okay, I had a couple other things I just wanted to say, just little bits and pieces that I remember, because I remember her talking a long, long time ago about being able to hear the trees talking, the deep communication back in New York of the trees talking under the ground. And what's amazing is that they've done like scientific studies now, and they found that the trees actually communicate amongst each other. They have warnings, and we don't know
Yes, under the ground even.
Yes, we don't know the details of it at all, but they have done specific tests and found that the trees communicate even when they're not like actually interlinked. So I just found that
Yes,
really
they are always interlinked, because they're what actually transmit the information is the fungal network.
There we go. That's what I was trying to think of, that term. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a fungal mycelial network that connects all the forest floor together. And so
Yeah.
it's like a neural network almost.
Yes.
That story is incredible to me, because that really encapsulates like how just intuitive she was about things, that like she had no evidence, or she didn't know any of that research. The research hadn't been done yet, and yet she knew these about the things in life that
like telling someone the water is wet.
yeah.
It's really amazing. She was so into it. There were some things that I just was just like, oh goodness, you're just crazy, lady. and then she'd be right. And I was like, how?
She ended up being right, yeah.
Just the intuition, like, and seeing that over and over again throughout my entire life is the thing that makes me think that there's something else, like there's something else that I don't know about. I don't have good connection with, because she sure did. Like,
boy, did she ever.
and I have one more little tiny story, kind of unrelated to that, because like I said, she did live with me for a number of years, kind of toward the end of her life when my son was very young. And she moved in with us when he was 6 months old. And she was using a walker to get around, and she had her oxygen that had to go along. And when my son was 8 months old or 9 months old, he started learning how to walk, and he had his little walker. And my son is competitive. So every time Granny would be walking down the hall with her walker, he would grab his little walker and race, and they would race down the hallway every single time. And that's how my son learned to walk, was racing Granny down the hall. So I just wanted to tell that story because I thought, Nikki, you're trying to comment, but you're muted. So I just wanted to share that story because it was beautiful. I wish I had video of it. I don't have any, I don't think, but it was
You've got the
amazing.
memory. That's what you need.
That's all I had. Thank you.
And the thing that I think is so beautiful, actually, you know, now that I'm seeing you guys, you know, all kind of in the same place at the same time, you know, between like hearing Martha talk and Margaret talk and Nikki talk, I feel like there's like you split Granny 3 ways and just put them in each of you. Like each of you are like this beautiful facet of her. So like I think, you know, like you were saying, Margaret, like there's you knew her during the certain windows of her life, and Martha had her during certain windows, and Nikki had her during certain windows, but like you all still project these individual parts of her, and it's just amazing to see that in each of you, and I'm loving that right now.
I would like to say something about that. I just want to say like a couple, like just something really short about for the grandchildren and great grandchildren that among my brother and my cousins, I see so much of Granny in all of us. Our love for nature, our curiosity, our love of art and poetry, and things that I was doing in my life that were little creative things, and breaking up jewelry to make mixed media art, and then finding out that these were the same things that Granny had been doing without me even knowing about it. And it's that connection that we all have to that like intuitive spirit that we got from her, that we were doing these things, carrying on her creativity and her legacy and her curiosity for life, that you know it's present in all of us. And I think that she was such a strong, powerful spirit that won't leave our bloodline for a very long time, I feel.
No.
And that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Natalie.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that there's something to be said in that too, you know, because I think much to like, you know, Margaret being this very analytical, data-driven person, you know, and her having this impact of showing us how real intuition and magic is, despite logic, despite mathematics, despite facts being right in front of our face, you know. And I just love this story that you're telling of her being able to sense the mycelial network, and us now having scientific evidence of that. Like being that I work in the spiritual field at this point in my life, there's a lot of times where like science is catching up to the things that we've been teaching for years. And I'm like, yes, welcome to the party, short bus, is kind of how I feel about those moments, you know. Like we've known this for 1,000 years, thanks for catching up. But yeah, you know, I mean, like I can identify with Granny in that, like that sense that like there's a lot of people who like, you know, laugh at some of the things that I believe in, and that's, you know, that's fine, you know, because the evidence is eventually going to catch up when it's necessary, you know. And we're patient in that process. So even if you had misgivings with her intuitions or thought she was crazy, I don't think that she took that personally.
She wasn't sure she wasn't crazy either.
Oh no, she knew she was crazy. She just didn't care, and she knew that her crazy would eventually become reality.
And here we are.
Go ahead, Wes.
I did prepare some words, but I'll just kind of go through it a little. I guess I didn't really know Granny when I was a child, when I was very young. She did come to visit once. She was kind of always this like mysterious character to me until I went to go live in New York. And I want to thank Martha and Sean for just giving me the opportunity to go live there and spend time with Granny and spend time with them. But that was really the first time in my life I got to like really know her. I had like a few phone conversations with her when I was a teenager, but when I finally got to sit down with her regularly and talk to her, it was like finding lost treasure. It was like uncovering like a gem hidden in a stone or something. It was like because there were these things about myself that I was confused about throughout my whole life. And when I finally got to know her, it was like everything made sense. And it was like she just, it was like she always knew me. She had this way of looking at someone and instantaneously knowing everything about them. Like she just has intuition that is like unlike anything I've ever seen before. I remember there was this one time we were together in her trailer, and I remember I looked at her forehead, and it was like the space around her forehead was like warping. I'll never forget that. I remember seeing that and just being like, what is going on in this person's brain? It's like it was like a force field around their head, and like there was no reason why I should have been seeing that. It just, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, she just had this enormous spirit, and she had this way of, like we're talking about, just knowing things that she shouldn't have been able to know. And it was just so amazing to get to talk to her. And she's definitely the most inspirational person I've ever met in my life, and just the most influential. And I would brag to my friends about her my whole life. You know, I wanted them to know about how cool she was, and I was so proud to have any kind of connection to her at all, because I felt like if I was related to this person, if I was connected to them, then maybe I got a touch of what they have, which is this. But you know, I also understand something too, which is that what Granny had, her the mind that she had, it came with a, I don't want to say a curse, but there's karma involved. She had this enormous intuition, but at the same time, her life, there was a lot of suffering, there's a lot of pain that she experienced, and she was aware of a lot of pain in the world, and she really felt that. A lot of people, they are aware of the pain in the world, but they choose to just not even think about it, and it's like, oh, it's nothing to them. But for her, I mean, like, she felt everyone's feelings all the time. It was just like it was, and it just was always in her brain. And so, you know, she just had this tremendous spirit that was able to take that all in at all times. And I think that might have been something that would drive her crazy at times, because it was just so, her brain was on overload, you know. And she was so intense because she needed people to understand what she was experiencing. It was so important. Sometimes she would whack her finger at you, listen to me, you know. um because she really had something important to say. And so, you know, she just wanted to be free in this world, and this world is not one that likes free people, and that's why she did not have it easy. But she didn't give in and give up her freedom in order to be comfortable. And you know, that's something that inspires me every day. I mean, if I hadn't gotten to really know my grandma, I would not be the same person, and I definitely would not believe in myself. Granny helped me believe in myself, and I think for all of us that's true to some extent. You know, she imbues us with a degree of confidence in our abilities, and some innate ability that we have because of her. And even people that just knew her, were around her, she implanted something in you that made you believe in yourself, gave you hope, and a special kind of hope too, not fake hope, but real hope and something deeper in the world. And that's the most important thing that someone can give you. And so, yeah, I'll miss her forever, but I really do believe that, you know, her spirit lives on in us, and it lives on in the world around us. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say, I guess.
Yeah, I think you did actually like accrue some of her gift, because this thing that you're describing with like the forehead and you seeing like that morphing, it sounds like what you're seeing is like the aura shifting, you know, the energy field around the body like moving as like as certain like biological functions happen in the body, the aura like reacts to it, and it can be an indicator. That could be a powerful gift for like actually helping people with medical problems. I don't know like what field you're going into, but that can be a really useful tool.
I've only seen it with two people, and she was the first one I saw that with, and I was blown away. But I really did see, like, it was like in front of her forehead, there was like space was like wrinkling a little bit. It was amazing.
Yeah, but if you tapped into it, you could use it more. But
quite
possibly.
possibly.
Interesting. Okay. Great story.
Anyone else want to share?
I think it's poem time.
Poem time. Okay, so let's see if I can actually get this to work.
Anybody else wanted to say anything? If anybody did, click like the little hand raise thing or something. So
Can I
Now's
have a
your
short?
chance.
Before you start reading the poem, I need to use the bathroom. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, you can't really see the tree. So that's not going to work. Oh, Elm's upside down. Why not?
That would be appropriate for you to read your poem upside down.
Now it's just going to show, I can't get out of the virtual background now. So yeah, there we go. None. How's that? Okay.
Well, we're waiting for Martha.
Yeah. I don't
back.
want to read it without her. So
Yeah. Granny was such a magical person. And even though, like, because we were all spread out throughout the country and the world, because she had such a long reach into the world, you know, we might not have individually gotten to spend as much time with her as maybe we would have liked to individually, but collectively, the experience that we've all had with her is so impactful. And just the word that comes to mind the most with Granny is magic, because that just describes what she had, this indescribable, undiscoverable feeling that there's more to life, and that the amount that you love and care for people and the world can affect and change everything. And it was such a powerful, impactful thing. And that lesson will never be lost, I feel.
Mom believed that she was a true empath. It wasn't just that she had emotions or that she felt other people's emotions. Mom used to always say things like, "Oh, my back hurts. I better call Kathy. She must have hurt herself." Oh gosh, pain in my foot. I wonder if, Aunt Olga's feeling okay. She would feel physical pain in her body that other people were feeling remotely, and she would know to call and check up on them. She was an empath in the truest sense. And it's just interesting because when I was a kid, Mom would say things, and I didn't really believe it. And later on, I embraced a more rigid, dogmatic tradition, a religious tradition, and I really didn't believe it. But in her latter years, everything she ever said turned out to be true. And I started thinking, gee, maybe my mom was onto something. So anyway, just a couple days ago, I wrote a poem, and I'm going to share it here. I have never done
Martha back yet?
Yes,
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
I have never done a poetry reading before, so bear with me. And Evan, you will understand why I wanted that photo. It's going to be posted with the photo online after the meeting. I mean, with the poem. The title of the poem is The Maple Tree. The maple tree, magnificent in blazing hues of red, majestic, held your magic once within its crimson spread. Beyond the hill, one almost hears our cries of joy and laughter, untouched by the wrenching tears and sadness which came after. Echoes of a childhood gone, like bells forever pealing, but we still feel your encircling arms and gentle hands of healing. A balm for all in time of need, a love for all things living, a knowing of the sacredness of mercy and forgiving. A prophet seeing ever deep with words profound and wise, you handed down your healer's lore of flower, herb, and skies. Passed on so many years ago, your essence flows through ages, And thus these mountains, leaves, and stones became your story's pages. The maple tree seems shrunken now, its branches thin and weak. The little house where we grew up sits colorless and bleak. The babbling brook where once we played has dwindled to a rill, and the mountainside that was our home now seems a tiny hill. The leaves have changed from red to gray in winter's coming frost. The maple's vibrance gone away, its magic all but lost. But your flame lives within us now. We'll carry it sublime, for you have passed beyond the veil into the mists of time.
Excellent poem.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful, Nina.
That part of the healer's lore of, like, you know, what was it, of earth and sky, like however you worded that was exquisite. That part right there was just, it was perfect.
Thank you.
My favorite thing is the carrying the flame with us and how it relates to the maple tree, and that like we all have a little maple leaf flame in our hearts burning for her now, carrying on into the future.
That
And
tree's
just
still there in front of the house.
just for some context, that was an actual tree that was in
Yeah,
our
I
front
keep-
yard growing up. And Evan had a photograph of it at the beginning of winter after almost all the leaves had fallen. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's perfect, because it's the actual tree in our actual front yard.
That the actual poem is referring to.
Yes.
You know, over the summer, I went to my high school reunion, and Sean brought Sean around the property and showed him that tree. Yeah. Apparently we just missed them. They had been there that day, but they had already left or something.
Oh.
Kevin and Peggy.
Everything seems smaller. Everything about it seems smaller. The house seems smaller, the creek, see everything, because I'm not a kid anymore.
Right?
But,
You're big
yeah.
now too.
Mhm.
I've had that experience. When I went back to the playground in Manhattan that I used to play in, it really shrunk because I was too short to even see over the hedges. And when I went back, I was totally twice as tall as the hedges, and I could see the whole park. It totally became a little postage stamp park instead of this giant maze it was to me when I was little. Wow.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much thank you, Tony, for helping us do this.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you guys so much for asking me to do this in the first place. Like, I've had such an amazing last month, and this is kind of like, I just had Dawn Stranges, who is the only person in the world with a PhD in energy healing, come to give a public speech at my place, and this felt more important than that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, it just was such, I was just so deeply touched and so deeply honored to be able to host this for her and to take this opportunity to, well, one of the most beautiful things about these kinds of get-togethers for funerals, for celebrations of life, is you kind of get to experience the love of the person from all of these different perspectives and all of these viewpoints. You know, I get to experience Margaret's version of Granny. I get to experience Martha's version, you know, like, and it's not just, you know, it's not just mine, and because we each took away a piece of magic from her, you know, as she touched our lives. Right. So it's beautiful that you guys have taken this time to unfold that and share that in this space, you know.
Because I think that was one of the things that she was really good at, was tailoring the love that she gave to each person in the way that she felt they needed it.
That's part
Like
of
how
being an
Wesley was
empath.
saying that she could look at you and know everything about you. Like she could just tell. And how Mom was saying that she was so empathic and would really feel what you were feeling. And like I think that's why we all have such a unique experience with her, and yet a similar experience is because she had this incredible love and magic that she was giving us, but that it was tailored to what each of us needed when we were interacting with her.
You.
That is so accurate. Yeah, it's so very, very much true. Yeah, like, and I think that's part of that empathic nature that we were mentioning earlier too. You know, like she could feel us, like Wesley said. You know, she could see us. She could see inside of us, and she wasn't speaking to our exterior or the person that we present to the world. She was just speaking right to like our very core as a person. You know, and to experience that kind of connection and like a attempt to really like get to know us, to be one with us, like really touched us in such a deep way, and it's an amazing gift.
I agree.
Or am I saving it for Halloween? Just hope today it'll be fun.
I imagine we should probably, it's kind of hard to figure out how to wrap up doing something like this, but I really appreciate everybody getting to, Tony for hosting and just everybody for coming and putting the time in for this. It's, it means a lot.
I wish we all could have been able to do this in person if that were possible. Of course it's not, but
That's
that would
what
have been.
I'm feeling right now too. Like I wish maybe in the future, maybe we could plan something where we can all get together at some place and connect and have an actual celebration of life, like where we really
Where
get
we can actually give each other physical hugs.
Yes.
Instead of
Yeah,
virtual hugs.
instead of
Although you
granny
can do a
hugs.
good job. Give yourself a big squeeze and close your eyes and imagine it's us hugging you. Really do it harder. Squeeze, actually squeeze.
This is how we ended all of our calls with Granny. Love you guys.
Love you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Before we hang up, Tony, I have an idea that I would love if you would help facilitate. My sisters and I want to continue having our family meeting, and we were wondering if you could set up a recurring link for us so that we could have a meeting with each other every week.
Yeah,
so that it wouldn't have to be 40 minutes long only.
Oh, right, because you guys are like under the yeah, that's fine.
All right, awesome.
We'll
I'm not
figure
sure.
that out.
We'll figure out the details at another time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Beautiful, beautiful time.
Links will be posted on Facebook, and I can text them to you if anybody wants to see the videos or look at photos or any of that. It'll all be on there.
Yeah, and I'll send a link to the recording of the video so you guys can have access to that too, so you can watch it whenever you need to.
Thank you, Tony.
You're very welcome.
Are we signing off now? Goodbye,
Yeah,
everybody.
I believe
Love you.
so.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
You're welcome. Bye,
I
guys.
love you all.
Bye.